So today, the topic that I have for you guys is email, and there's some very specific things that I'm going to cover here today that I think everybody can find useful. So today we're not covering super basic things, but some information that every user can kind of utilize. So at the end of each section, I will ask you if you have any questions. You can also post questions that you have in the chat. And I will have a couple files that I'm going to share as well that you guys can download for reference. All right, so our first topic is going to be phishing scams. Does anybody know what phishing scams are before we start? Any guesses?
Yeah, isn't it somebody out there in computer world starts, or the companies, the corporations.
Exactly, you're exactly right.
Pick up words, right.
So they kind of trick you into thinking that it's something legitimate. I'm going to show you a couple different examples that I actually was surprised that we had in here recently that we got as emails. And so hopefully that can help you guys identify those phishing scams so that you can avoid them. So rule of thumb, first off and foremost, is no matter who is sending you an email, be aware they can't hurt you by just opening the email. The issue is that when you click on a link inside the email that says something like contact us, update your password, verify this information, and you leave your email and go to their website, then you're kind of giving that information away to a third party. So
that's good to know.
Yeah, so the couple examples I have, I'm going to switch to sharing my screen here so you guys can see it. There we go. All right.
In what?
Let me get my spotlight up here so you guys can follow along. And the first example that I have is a bank. This is a very, very common one where the banks, it'll look like it's coming from a bank account, but it's really not. So in this case, it says from Citibank. You can see here at the top. But if you look at the actual email address, it doesn't say anything about Citibank. So you really have to pay very close attention because what's up here, this alotita at habisbrazil.com.br, that's who the email is actually coming from. And when you actually click on this please reply to link, it's actually redirecting it to another location. It's not actually going to send it to those addresses.
I want you to wait till you come home to your hair.
And if those addresses are there,
Okay with you?
Yeah. If you click on one of these addresses, it could take
what
you
else
to
do
a
you want?
third party. All right. So in this example of the phishing scam, as I was saying, there's quite a few identifiers here of this being a scam. One being that it's showing the email coming from Brazil, the .br. Nothing here is legitimate. You know, they're trying to scare you into thinking that there's some corruption or issue going on that you need to resolve. And if you reply to them, they're going to seek more personal information from you, aside from what you've already got. So in any case, this is a second example of a phishing scam. This one actually surprised me because we don't really see this very often. But this one's actually trying to make you think that your mailbox is full. Some email providers do not give you unlimited space. They will give you like a maximum there. So by having that maximum, they're trying to take advantage of that being a potential issue. And you could be clicking on this link here, and this link is not going to take you to a legitimate source. It's kind of hard for me to show you guys, but if you look at the very bottom of my screen down here, let me get my pointer back. If you look at the very bottom of my screen down here, do you guys see that red dot? what you want to do is look there while I'm highlighting this. And you can see that it's actually showing a different web address than what our email provider is. And it actually says it's from webmail at webmail.org, but if we highlight over this confirm now button, it's actually going to take us to a Russian website. You can see it says .ru at the bottom there. So those are two examples. Another example I came across, this is a very common popular one with Amazon. This is actually trying to tell us we have an order. Of course, our name's not Frank. There's nobody by the name of Frank here at our email address, but once you get an email like this, you want to be checking, like I said, for the email address at the top. And in this case, it's actually coming from mathesonrachel@gmail.com. Now, more than likely what has happened, and we'll see another example of this, is that that person's email account has been hacked or compromised, and their email address book has also been compromised. So that Matheson Rachel person may have our email address for a legitimate reason, but their email address has been compromised and their address book is now sending out a bunch of junk. So what you want to look out for is the from email address, and you also want to avoid clicking any links inside the email, and you want to not call any phone numbers that are here. So in this case, or in the bank case, or any other case where it's a business, what you do is you want to call them directly or go to their website. Do not review any of the information that's in the email itself. Instead, in this case, you would want to pull up your web browser, and then I would go to google.com or just use my search engine and type in Amazon. And then I would want to go directly to Amazon's website. And in most cases, you can find some contact information if you go to the very bottom, which is also true for Amazon. They have a contact us button here somewhere, although I think you might have to be logged in. So you can do that on your own. Take it upon yourself to go that extra mile to make sure you're safe, because unfortunately, these things are not considered viruses. So there's nothing you can do or your antivirus can do to keep that out of your computer other than knowing how to avoid those things on your own. So it's really important that you just take a couple extra seconds. They will use scare tactics to try to trick you. And I'm telling you, I myself had even become victim to this one time. My son was going somewhere for a baseball game with his baseball team, and I had gotten an email from his coach, and at the bottom, I have Gmail that I use. At the bottom of the list, you'll see on Gmail, you'll see a line where you can click to see more. And what I did was I clicked that button to see more, thinking that it was to show the rest of the email, which sometimes is legitimate. And when I clicked that button, it actually told me to log into my account. I was in a hurry, so I quickly typed my password in, and the second I did it, I was like, wait a minute. Was that really Google that I just reset my password with? I went and I changed my password immediately, and later that day, I got notifications from Google that someone was trying to log into my account in like North Carolina or something like that. So you do have to have a little bit of knowledge to protect yourself, and even those of us who are most knowledgeable about this stuff, we can still make mistakes as well. So just take those extra suggestions and keep those in mind. The last example of phishing that I wanted to show you goes along with the emails coming from email addresses that have been compromised, as I mentioned before. And I will come back to your questions. I see them there in the chat box. I just want to finish this section up here for you guys. But in this case, these actually went into my extra junk folder here. And these are two of our clients that obviously had their email accounts hacked. They're sending us emails asking if we know this guy, and you can see the email addresses that they're going to are very similar. and all going to that same .com web address, but they are all spam. So you do not want to click on these links. If you're not expecting something from somebody you know with a link in it, then definitely don't click on it. You just have to be aware and take those extra steps on your own. So I'm getting the question, how would we know if an email address has been compromised? So the most common way that people find out is somebody in their email list telling them, hey, I got this email from you. Did you send it, or did you know it was coming out? You can also go back and check your sent folder to see if emails are being sent out on your account. Although in most cases, those will not show there. They're usually using a third-party application or something like that that's sending those emails out. So it can be difficult to know that that is the case. And the best way to know is to reach out to those individuals directly in another way other than through email, if you can. And that way you'll be sure if those people actually tried to send you that link or not. But Cindy, I see that you just came in. Let me just review real quick. We were discussing phishing scams, and basically if you get an email from any company or organization, what you want to do is not contact them directly. You just kind of want to get those people in there by going directly to their website, like Amazon.com or whatever website you are trying to get to or trying to contact. But a lot of times those emails are just spam junk, and the best way to know is to go directly to the source. All right, so I'm kind of trying to go through and unmute you guys because I do like when you speak up and tell me things. So feel free to unmute yourself. If you don't have a lot of background noise there, I am welcome to having that conversation with you guys. I think I got y'all. All right, so that just about covers phishing scams. The next thing I wanted to go over with you guys is something we've been running into here recently, and it's just another way that these scammers are kind of taking over your email accounts. And in order to resolve these issues, you kind of have to know how to get in and adjust a few settings. So the example that I have is Comcast. I know a lot of you use Comcast, and this is where I'm seeing it most commonly, is with Comcast email. So if you use a Comcast.net email, you have people saying that they're emailing you and you're not getting it, or you're not seeing emails that normally go into your email box, then you would have an opportunity to come into your mail settings here and check a few things. And what I did was I logged into the mail account here on Comcast, and every email account provider is going to be a little bit different, but you're going to see some very similar settings. So in this case, I went in under settings. And under settings here, when we click on it, we get a few other mail options. And one of those mail options here is auto forward. And to auto forward an email, basically what that means is that when an email is sent to you, it's going to another email address. So what I've been coming across, a couple customers have been coming and saying, I'm not getting my email, I don't know what's going on, all these people saying that they're emailing me, but they stopped on a certain date altogether. So what I've come across is that these scammers, once they're getting into your email account, they're going in here, they're choosing to enable forwarded emails. And in some cases, they're creating an email address just like yours. Like say, let's just say, for example, that this email is jestercomputers@comcast.net. They may go in and make up a new account called jestercomputers@outlook.com. And then all the emails that people are sending to your Comcast account are going over to Outlook. And because these scammers are doing this in a way to be harmful, they're not telling it to save a copy on your email account. So all of those emails are just getting forwarded around. And what's happening, like I said, is that people are coming in and they're saying, oh, my emails are all gone, they're not coming in, and this is exactly one of the reasons why it's happening. So if you have that issue or you want to forward your email, that is an option in the settings. Just want to make sure it's set up the way that you want it to be. All right, so the next thing I wanted to show you here, and then I'll get back to your questions, guys, are filter rules. This can be also used in an email application. You're not necessarily just going to see this with webmail, but essentially you can set up rules to say, like, for example, we'll call this new emails. And we'll say all emails to, and like I said, we'll pretend this account is jestercomputers@comcast.net. And then what they do is they tell them to go to the trash, or they tell them to go to a different folder. So it's not that your emails are actually moving away out of your account, but they've set these rules or these conditions to tell your email to go to a specific place. And when you're not aware of those things, you can open up your inbox and say, where's all my email? So the other day, it came to that a customer's emails were all being moved into an Amazon folder, but they weren't all Amazon emails. They were just emails that were coming in. So those are a couple of settings that these scammers are really kind of using to take over the email in a way that you don't want them to. So I have a few questions that I want to answer for you guys because I see a few questions here, so I'm going to go back just a little bit. Just give me a second here. So the question of, so each company, like I get a lot of messages from organizations, I should read them and then go to their web. So if you get an email, and like we'll use the example of Amazon again, if you get an Amazon email and it's just telling you about your shipping updates, yada yada, as long as you don't click on it or anything, you're fine. If you do get an email from Amazon and you are tempted to click on the link, then you just want to follow the rule that I suggested earlier in our webinar, and that's just to check the from email address. If it's coming from Amazon.com and you've checked the spelling exactly, then it's probably okay to click the link. But if you want to be 100% sure, open up your browser, type in Amazon.com, and then go find out what you need to find out in your account. That is the safest way. So as far as changing your password to stop spammers once they have your account. Once you change your password, they don't have access to that account anymore. There are some instances where you can set up extra security, and tomorrow we're going to be covering passwords, so some of your questions might be answered there as well. But there are some instances where you don't want to put that extra security in, and email sometimes is that case because what happens is your email program doesn't support that extra layer of security. So if you're using Thunderbird or Outlook or something like that to check your email, you might not have the option of putting the extra security. But if you're using webmail, which we'll talk about more here in a minute, then it's perfectly fine to add that two-factor authentication or something like that. But the important thing is don't type your password in anywhere where you think somebody might be able to get it. Be sure you're on good, legitimate websites when you do enter that information in. And just use good practices, as I suggested earlier, when you do receive these types of emails. Don't click on the links in them. If you need to change your password, go right to the website. And if you're not sure what your password is, there's always a forgot password button there. So you definitely want to change your password. If anybody tells you that you're sending out emails that you didn't mean to send out, or if people are saying that they got garbage emails from you, or emails saying that they are needing you to go buy these credit gift cards, or things like that, then obviously those are not legitimate emails that you would want to avoid clicking on. So the question is it not best to use Comcast email? There's really not one that's better than another, but one of the things that ultimately you can do to help get rid of spam email and junk, and this is going to be outlined in my document I'm going to share here shortly. You can get your own private domain or your own web address. Like we have JestersComputers.com. So because I have my own domain, it's not going to be targeted like Google, Gmail, things like that. I do find that it seems like Comcast users do tend to have more of an issue, but there's no way for me to identify if it's because of a user action or if it's a lack of security on Comcast's part. So the scam folder was filled with junk. The junk is now coming into the email. What do you do? So in this case, it depends on the email provider that you're using and the software that you're using. So if you can elaborate a little bit on that, I can give you some more direction there, Luann. But generally, if you're using an email application, you can right-click on the emails and mark them as spam, which kind of helps train your email application so that it starts to recognize those emails a little bit better. And you can also kind of use those filter rules to knock junk out as well, although that can get pretty complicated. Now the question of, does Avast protect or watch over emails? The answer to that is yes and no. It depends on how you're accessing your email. If you're going to Comcast.net or gmail.com or yahoo.com through a web browser, then Avast isn't offering any scanning protection until you go to open something that is a file. So one of the things I mentioned earlier in the webinar is that your computer won't protect you from an action that you take. So you have to be aware of how to avoid those things. So as I was suggesting earlier, don't click on any links of anything that could be potentially malicious, like a bank link or any kind of shopping link. Go directly to the source to be sure. Check those email addresses to make sure you know exactly who is trying to send you those emails. Now, if you are using Avast and you're using Outlook or you're using Thunderbird or a third-party application like that that is compatible, then typically we do turn the email scanner on, which is why it can sometimes take a little longer to receive emails because it's checking all your incoming emails as well. I think I got everybody's questions so far. And also, if you're using Avast and you have the online security toolbar enabled in your browser, which I think works in Chrome and Firefox and possibly others, you may also have an identifier there that some websites are not legitimate. All right, so, whoops. All right, so what we've got so far, is there any other questions? So far we've covered phishing scams, email forwarding filter rules, and the last thing I have for you guys today is webmail versus applications. And I promise you guys I have a whole bunch of good files from articles that I have in the Emmitsburg News Journal. I'm just going to wait till the end because I don't want to be distracted. All right, so the last thing again is webmail versus application. So some of you may have even had an occurrence the other day. I'm going to stop sharing that here. Some of you may have had an occurrence the other day if you're Outlook users where you weren't able to open Outlook. I don't know if anybody in here uses Outlook or had that issue, but they completely went down the other day. When they tried to do an update, something went wrong and users weren't able to open Outlook. So I do see one of you did have that issue. Thank you. So that was not anything that anybody could resolve because it was an update with Outlook, and there were a couple fixes that came out, but unfortunately in most cases they weren't working. So this is a great example of webmail versus a web application. So as I mentioned before, a couple examples of applications include Outlook, which is a paid program with Office. You can also use Thunderbird, which is typically what we set up for our users who don't want to pay for the Outlook. There's also Live Mail, Windows Mail, all kinds of email applications. So the way you can identify what you're using is how you're getting into your email. If you're clicking on Google Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Edge, Safari, any other web browser, then you're using webmail and not a web application. So one of the reasons why it's good to at least have access to your webmail is because of situations like people ran into with Outlook the other day. So just because you access your email in Outlook doesn't mean that you can't get to your email in another way. So your email is actually living on the web server, and you're accessing that email through whatever program you normally access it through. But you can actually go directly to the source. So if your email's through Comcast, go to comcast.net and log in. If you have Gmail, go to gmail.com and log in, Yahoo, AOL, whatever the website is. And then you can go directly into the email. If you have a private domain like we have, JestersComputers.com, your web host will provide you with some kind of webmail link. You just have to get that information from them. But one of the reasons why it's good to have access to your webmail is so that you can see the same things on other devices. And if your mail application is set up as an IMAP account, which I'll explain in a moment, then all the information that you're seeing in your mail application is going to match what the webmail application says. So you can actually have all your emails syncing between the webmail and the mail application if you have IMAP set up. The only thing that doesn't sync is your address book. If you don't use IMAP in your mail application, if you instead use POP, it's downloading the email to your computer. So it's not actually pushing that information back out to the server. So if I was using Thunderbird or Outlook, for example, and I had a POP account, then I would not see that email. If I sent an email to someone from my Thunderbird and I logged into my Gmail account, I'm not going to see that I sent that email to that person because I have my account set up as a POP account, and that's a one-way direction. The data comes down to the computer, but the data does not go back to the server. If you have an IMAP account, then the data travels in both directions. So we like to think of it like a two-way highway. So if you send an email out to so-and-so, that email that you sent out is then copied back to the server so that if you log into Gmail, Comcast, whatever your email account is that you were accessing through your email application, they will actually match perfectly. You're welcome. Live Mail is really an outdated application. If you're still using it, you need to get rid of it because it's no longer supported. It hasn't been for a while. And in fact, you can't even get the download anymore. They stopped sharing it on their website. So you definitely don't want to use Live Mail if you have it. So that kind of gives you a general idea of, the different things that I suggest. I'm going to put a couple of files here that I think are going to be super helpful for you guys. So definitely go to the chat box there and download them. If you were in here yesterday, one of them, the first one here, you may have already seen. Yes, you can change a POP to the other account, but basically it needs to be set up again. So typically what I do is go in, set up the account, and then you can then copy that information from your POP account back to the IMAP. You just have to get it set up first before you're able to do that. So we've got keep your computer running good. Some things I covered yesterday are in there, including pop-ups and getting junk out of your browser. Then we have email tips for keeping your sanity. Lots of good stuff in there that also talks about spam and junk and how to avoid that. And we also have how to protect yourself from scams. There is just a small portion of that that talks about email phishing scams, but lots of other good information on scams, some of which we went over yesterday. And then the last document here, webmail versus mail program. Just going to kind of compare the pros and the cons of each option that you have. Now, while you guys are trying to download those or grab those, I'm going to unmute the last few of you here that have been muted, in case you want to speak up. And I just wanted to also let you guys know, for those of you who were not here yesterday, I did have an announcement that we are able to now provide support for mobile devices and Mac computers. So if you have an Android phone or tablet, if you have an iPhone or iPad or a Mac, we can now offer remote support on those in addition to computers and phone support that we already offer. No, I just wanted to see if there's any other questions before I finish up today. You guys have been great. I thank you so much. Any other questions today?
Thank you, honey, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you again another day this week.
Yes,
Well,
thank
tomorrow. Won't you be here tomorrow?
I will. I'll be here at 4 o'clock again. You just have to go to the email or the Facebook.
The one is a PDF.
Oh, you know what? Do you have Word on your computer?
Yeah, well, for now, I downloaded them through this PC and then downloads.
Yeah, then that's fine. They'll just be in your downloads folder if you need to get to them.
Okay.
And then if you want to move them, you can drag them somewhere else, but you'll just have to go to downloads to find them for now.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure they were compatible.
Yeah. It's just if you don't have Word, it might not open, but I can always send you a PDF version if you have trouble.
No, I've got Word and I've got whatever the PDF Foxit, is that
Yeah, that'll do PDF.
Adobe or what? I don't know. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. Any other questions? I'm going to put our recording.
Oh, the link that you sent for YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to click on that now while you're still on?
I think once we close the meeting, it'll disappear. So you might want to go ahead and click on that so you can get to it.
I don't see that link.
I'll copy it again for you. It was way
Very
at the
top of
top.
the chat.
So that'll take you to our channel, and I have a lot of really good old videos that I shared that I spent a lot more time editing and really going through details. So definitely check those out. Might be some topics there that you guys have questions on. Any other questions? I just want to make sure you guys have time to grab those links before I close it because I think it'll disappear. And if you do end up going to my YouTube channel, if you subscribe or share it, that's awesome. I don't really have a lot of people that follow it, but it's a good place to get up to date on any of the videos that I share. I know it's a lot easier to see that stuff one-on-one than it is hearing it over the phone, so I try to make it as helpful as I can.
If we go to jesters.com, will we get a link to your YouTube thing? Is
I
there-
don't have one up there right now, but I will do that and I will put it on the news section on the homepage. So if you give me a few minutes, I'll make sure I put it up there for you so you can get to it.
Thank you.
No
Thank you.
problem. I'm gonna do that now so I don't forget, because I will forget. I didn't even put the webinars on our on our website or anything because I did everything so last minute. But I really wanted to try to get this information out there and share it with you guys because I know that it's not stuff that we're born with. We kind of have to learn it and take a little bit of time to understand it. But yeah, I'm gonna get that link up there for you right now.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Otherwise, I guess I'd have to pencil copy the YouTube address.
If you highlight it, like if you left click and then you drag, it should highlight it. And then you can right click inside the blue and you should be able to copy it, but I'm still gonna get you that.
Okay, all
Link.
right. Yeah, I've highlighted it, but I don't know what to do with it.
Right.
Sorry, such a babe in the woods.
So I highlighted and copy. So then I would put that in search,
That would go in your web browser at the
Yeah.
address bar at the top. Yep,
and then I could bookmark it and return to it.
absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm making that link right now on our website. So when you go to it, you won't have to hunt for it. There, it should be up there now for you.
And that's just jesters.com.
Jestercomputers.com. I'm gonna make sure my link works. Yep, that should take you right to it. Did everybody get their the files and the links and everything that you needed?
Hopefully.
Okay. All right, good.
Yes, I think so.
All right, perfect.
I still
Alright.
don't, I'm just gonna try. I sent you how to send a message.
Uh-huh.
It's still, if I type the message and I hit return, it erases it and I can't find any other icon or anything to send it.
Huh.
I've used this before on Zoom and I don't know what I did to
Are
use.
Do you have, can I see your screen? Can I switch it
Yeah.
to your screen?
Yeah,
All right, who is it that's talking to me?
Brenda.
What's
Sorry,
that?
Brenda.
Okay, all right. Let me see if I can set it to view your screen. Here we go. And then, whoops. Brenda, do you see a share screen button now?
Oh, I was going, yes, yeah, got it.
Can
There
you
you
click
go.
on that so I can see?
Yep. It worked.